We say the rising tide floats all boats. If you're a citizen of Kansas City, you would want the underserved to be brought up to where we could be a viable city. It could be a livable community. It would be a place where everyone would feel safe.
You got out. Would you like to pull it? Okay, pull it.
So, share. Let me try your shoe. Your shoe's so tight.
My wife started Kitty Depot in a house. We signed a lease to a 3,000 square foot building which is right up the street here. Then after 5 years, rents more than doubled. We had to pack up. So I'm gonna get out here and we're gonna build our own. And I had no idea how I was gonna do that. The banks tell you they want 20%. Until they understand you're gonna build a multi-million-dollar facility in a blighted neighborhood, blighted surroundings, and household incomes at that time which were less than $30,000 a year. Hard sale. We had no debt and were turned down for the loan by 6 banks. About that time, I learned of the Central City Economic Development Tax Fund, and we were fortunate enough to be awarded. I think I was the second project awarded in the first round. We were awarded financing predicated on receiving the $1 million grant from Kansas City. That was the caveat that made this development possible. And without that $1 million grant from the city, we wouldn't be here today.
CCD, it's a sales tax that was approved by voters in Kansas City that allows for an incentive for economic development and a boundary in what's known as a central city. Projects would be scored with an objective scorecard that had like a series of metrics that ranged from number of jobs created to number of housing units, if they were affordable, if it was a mixed-use project. We would take those things, score the proposals, and then make a series of recommendations based on the quality of those projects. It was the city's responsibility to determine which projects were going to be approved or not approved, and then do the whole contracting process and get money out the door. We were just a recommending body. I was proud to serve on it because it's so important, and this needs to be successful. The community really needs it, but it was really hard. There was a common complaint from developers and community members as well that they had a really hard time getting a hold of people at the city or getting responsive, timely answers to things. Sometimes we ourselves would try and get a hold of city staff to say, hey, what's going on? What made this worse was that this was during COVID, especially in the aftermath, where you had this massive inflation on building materials and labor costs, and these delays, ended up really threatening the viability of a lot of these projects. I mean, these type of calls and these answers and stuff, that should be something that you're talking to like an executive director about, for the program, not me. You would think it would be the opposite, where it'd be, the easiest, most seamless process when you're doing it in an area of town that needs it the most. But unfortunately, it was the opposite.
When we in the community got behind this initiative to actually tax ourselves because of the lack of equitable investments east of Truce. What we wanted the city to do was to set up an operation for the CCED with staff in the community outside of the walls of City Hall. The mayor has turned a deaf ear to those requests, and so it's just an unfortunate situation as we consistently find ourselves in when it comes to investing in our communities with the greatest need that are most highly populated by people of color.
The mayor appointing people to fill vacancies hasn't been done. Contracts are still waiting by the wayside to get processed. There are several people that got approved that they've taken the money back from. That's not anything that has to do with CCED board or anything. That's the process. And that's where I think people in the community are falling victim to the process. I think the concept of it was good. It could have been successful, and it still could be. The Linwood Shopping Center looks great. It's been redeveloped. Emmanuel Child Development Center. Finally, Kelvin Simmons project over on 1900 Vine. I think those projects have been successful.
That's your money shot.
This is one of the largest private development projects in the 18th and Vine area in modern day history. To do projects of this scale and of this magnitude, CCED alone doesn't do it, but if you don't have CCED, the conversation doesn't begin with investors and people that might want to do a project like this. They want to be able to see that their return on their investment is going to be equal to, if not better. But the reality is when you're doing projects on the east side, the market still does things that we don't control. Financial institutions, for one. Number two, appraisals. Number three, the environmental issues that we face. All of those things take place on the east side. Not saying that it doesn't happen on the west side, but I can tell you when it comes to return on investment and it comes to evaluations, they're different. In some cases, we're trying to eradicate blight. In other communities, you're trying to give an amenity and you're trying to advance a community with some things that are really nice. There's a difference there. Is it big enough? No. Are we hoping that it would be reauthorized? Yes. Because again, the conversation about development projects like this don't even start if you don't have a CCED fund.
You know, it was a pilot program. It was new. It was new to everyone. So it was new to us. It was new to the board. It was new to the city. But the benchmarks that it has been able to achieve far outweighs the lack thereof. Better than 40% of child care facilities closed as a result of the pandemic. What that did, it left the heavy lifting to those that were able to survive. Child care is another essential part of our economy. It creates sustainability for employers. Employers have second and third shift employees that otherwise wouldn't have anywhere to leave those children, thus affecting their bottom line and their profit margins. Access to capital is the reason that our community looks like it does. I would also challenge them in saying if we don't have this 8-cent sales tax, they must be happy with what they see here today.
You know, those are all good projects. Our vision was for transformative, impactful development, which means we would not have these little development over here and then a little something over here. And we told the community, we're going to take this tax burden and you're going to see a difference in the quality of your life. We're going to see economic development in your community. We're going to have affordable housing. We're going to have retail. We're going to have recreational spaces and safe places for our children to play and gather. And we can't back that up. So I won't go to the voters asking for a renewal unless something significant changes between now and the time that the tax expires.
I think that the tax has done a lot of good. I really do. I think that there are some of the projects that are, under construction now that have finished are really important, transformational projects in the areas they sit. But the city's got to do a lot better with it. It's one of the few things that exist to make sure that you can get something in the central city that you can't get at 12th and Broadway instead.